of the virtual open house visit is to offer an opportunity for schools and communities to learn more about inclusionary practices by providing access to our demo sites preschool partners. The open house is an open forum, so if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat or just shout it out. It's kind of fun that way. This is going to be recorded, so you'll have access to the recording after. As we go through the open house, please keep this etiquette in mind. We encourage a growth mindset where you're open to thinking about new ideas and willing to push yourself to grow. We also would applaud you to for keeping your video on and actively participating today. This is going to be a really nice open format where we get to see people's faces. We're not going to look at a presentation the whole time, so it's really nice to be able to do that. Thank you for joining us and for being present, positive, and engaged. All right, so for more information, you can go ahead and check out our website here. The IPP demo sites is on the top. We have the Kodiak Cubs website in the middle and the Kodiak Cubs YouTube channel, which has some really great resources on the bottom there, and we will have those posted in the chat today as well. All right, so first of all, we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. We would love to know more about you. So if you could provide your name, school location, and topic of interest, you're welcome to do so in the chat. I'm going to start us off with the UW team, and then we'll move on to Lindsay and then anybody else joining in. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so that we can see each other's faces. All right, and my name is Cassie Borges. I am the lead of the Preschool Demo Sites project, and I am so thrilled to be here. I'm going to pass it on to Mo to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Monique Worthy, and I'm an inclusion specialist at the UW Hearing Center. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that you are joining us today.
Thank you, Mo. And Lindsay, do you want to go ahead and jump in?
Yes. Hi, I'm Lindsay Camp, and I am the lead teacher at Kodiak Cubs Preschool in beautiful Leavenworth, Washington.
Awesome. Thank you, Lindsay. And if anybody wants to go ahead and shout out, you can share with us your name, your school or location, and your topic of interest for today. We'll give you guys a few minutes to allow that space.
Hi, I'm Cassie Martin, and I am the lead of the IPP Demonstration Sites project at the University of Washington. And Lindsay, I've just been really interested in following your work, and I'm impressed with everything that you've done. And I'm interested in ways that you can continue your innovative work at the preschool, and also, you know, although we're talking about preschools, also continue to help our CTE programs innovate and expand, and how you can share your knowledge and expertise and experience with in those areas, so so they can learn from you, and that we can see some of the work that you're doing expand across the state of Washington.
Thank you so much, Cassie. And it looks like Rena Marie is really excited just to hear more about Kodiak Cubs from Lindsay and how she has collaborated with the community partnerships. Awesome. Thank you, Rena Marie. And anybody else?
Hi, I'm Jody Jens. I'm the program specialist with the preschool in Lake Washington School District. And kind of like Rena Marie said, I'm just interested to hear what others are doing as we're working on more inclusive models for our preschool too.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much, Jody. Cindy, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Cindy Farnsworth. I'm the principal at Meadowcrest Early Learning Center in Renton, and we are on our year 2 of our Inclusion Champions grant, and just looking for additional ideas on how to expand our continuum of services. So appreciate the opportunity to learn from others.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And Jody and Hillary, if you guys want to jump in, feel free. Oh, Hillary is on a call with HR. No worries. Feel free to jump in whenever, or feel free to put something in the chat as well. We will go ahead and get started with Lindsay, maybe just explaining a little bit about who you are and Kodiak Cubs.
Who am I and why am I here? So I'm Lindsay Camp again, and like I said before, I'm the lead teacher at Kodiak Cubs Preschool. And just a little background about our preschool is the school district that I serve in, Cascade School District, is the second largest school district, geographically speaking, in the state of Washington. We serve students from the top of Stevens Pass to all the way to the top of Blewett Pass and everything in between, from about, if you know the area, Cashmere, all the way to Merritt. That is a gigantic geographical area. We have some students that ride the school bus to our elementary school programs for about 2 hours to get to school. So that being said, if we wanted to, as a school district, offer a preschool program, it just by its very nature was going to be inclusive, because if you've got little people on the bus for 2 hours, you want to make sure that you're getting everybody that needs to be there. And we're small enough. We have a very, very small amount of students that we serve, about 1,100 students in the entire school district, soaking wet, as I like to say. And we to be able to offer a preschool program, it has to be inclusive. So that's where we started on our journey of inclusive. We actually wasn't a very far journey, because that was what we had. If we were going to have a preschool program, we were just going to serve everybody. So that's a little background. Right now, currently, we are offering a preschool program, which serves students in the district that are age 3-ish, 3 and 4. And then we have a pre-K program, which serves students that are in the year before they're going to kindergarten. Altogether, this school year, we have about 62 students. I am the only teacher, and we have one paraeducator. But the hallmark of our program is that we are attached to the CTE program, Career and Technical Education program, of our high school. Our preschool is actually housed in our middle school, which shares a parking lot with our high school. And then our high school kids can come over. They participate in a class called Child Development 2. So we actually have a 2-tiered child development program. Child Development 1 is where they have a lecture-based class with a teacher at the high school, and they learn about the theory and practical applications of early childhood teaching strategies. And that's where they learn about Erik Erikson and Maslow's hierarchy of needs and all that stuff. And then they come over to me for Child Development 2, where they actually participate in a college level practicum. And in my classroom, they are the assistant teachers. So I am the only certified teacher that's here, along with a paraeducator, but we have a lot of teachers, because I have about, in the course of any school year, I have about 20 high school students that are in my class per semester. So right now, I off the top of my head, I've got 16 this semester, which gives me about 4 high school students per period. They have 4 periods a day. So in my morning session, I'll have about 8 kids that rotate in and out. In the afternoon, have about 8 kids that rotate in and out. High school students. We call them the big kids. And then we have the little kids. And the big kids are the rock stars of our program. They come over, and they're all vetted by me. I do a lot of training with them, and they are really super active in our program. They're the ones that are delivering a lot of instruction. By this time of the semester, they've been kind of sitting back, watching me. I do the major bulk of the instruction at the beginning of the semester, so they can see what it should look like and how it should sound. And they start pushing in, doing little bits here and there. But by this time, in May, they're running the classroom, and I just sit in the back and read the newspaper. No, it's not true. But I do a lot of shadowing of them, and I step in and help when there's little bits, but I actually don't have to do that much. By this time, they're actually really quite accomplished as teachers, and they have a magic touch with those little kids that I sometimes, don't have. I kind of think of it as it's almost like, I'm like the mom, and then they're like the cool aunts and uncles that come over. and then the little kids are just like, they're so excited to see their cool aunts and uncles, and they can oftentimes support and scaffold the little kids in ways that I couldn't, and they make connections with little kids that I don't. I mean, I love all of them, and I make connect. I'm certainly very much tied relationally to all of them and their families and all of that. Like just like all of us are in our programs, but those high school students can sometimes meet the little kids a little bit more where they're at. I've had high school kids say, I get why they're frustrated. I'm frustrated about the same thing. So that's the hallmark of our program. And that's really, really something special that we love to be talking about and helping to spread throughout the state, because really what it ends up meaning is that my preschool students get a lot more time and attention from an adult figure. I mean, those high school kids seem like adults to them. The little kids don't know. One thing, I digress just a little bit here and tell you a really quick story about something that happened this last week. So we have a lot of high school kids in our program that are English language learners. We have a large population of migrant and bilingual kids in our community because of the orchards. So they're Spanish speakers. They're native Spanish speakers, and they've grown up in our school system and want to come back and participate in the preschool because they remember what it was like being little and having a hard time and struggling in school. And they come and they provide a lot of translating services for us. They talk with the kids in Spanish. They read books in Spanish. But this last week, I noticed one of my seniors was sitting at a table with some pre-K kids, and he was working on the phonemic awareness activity that the little kids were working on. He was sorting his letters and sounds and everything, and he was struggling with it a little bit, and the kids were helping him. And I kind of thought, well, this is really brilliant of him to pretend like he's struggling with it. But then I kind of watched and I thought, he's not pretending. He is struggling with it. This is something that he still struggles with because he didn't really get it the first time around. And so later on, he finished the assignment and he wrote his name on it and he turned it in to me. And he was like, "How did I do, Mrs. Camp?" And I said to him, "I'm so proud of you because there are so many grown-ups, there's so many adults that can't look in the face of something that's really hard for them. They can't take that challenge on and admit to not knowing something that a 4-year-old knows. And I'm really proud of you for using that as a strategy to help the kids, but also to help yourself." And he said, "Oh, Mrs. Camp, you can't even imagine how much, like my reading is better. Everything is better because I'm learning this all for the first time." He himself did not learn it when he was a little kid, and he's learning it now and helping other little kids learning it. He told me he's going home. He's teaching his parents who don't read English. He's teaching them how to read. It was just like the stories that keep happening at Kodiak Cubs about how having these high school kids in our program, how it's changing, not just how our program works, but how our community works and how we're supporting and encouraging the growth of our community. It's phenomenal, amazing, and magical.
Do you have any recommendations for people in terms of starting their own CTE or expansion or any other words about that?
Yes, I do, Cassie, and that's an excellent question because everybody always thinks this is not something that we can do. Like, how are we going to do this? And I've had people say, well, we can't do it because we don't share a parking lot with the high school. They say that. We can't do this because we don't want high schoolers in our program. That people kind of are just setting up roadblocks for themselves. So the first thing that I think is the biggest thing that you can do for your program is to just say that this is something we want to do. We're just straight up, we want to do it. And then you got to find the people that are in your high school that can help you do it. So your CTE, your local high school is going to have a CTE director, career and technical education director, and you go and you talk to them. CTE directors want to help this happen because they've got money to be able to do it. So find your CTE director in your school district or at your local high school. The other place to look is at local colleges and universities because they have early childhood programs, and that is how we give our high school students dual credit. That's what it's called. They get dual credit. They get high school credit, and they also get college credit at the same time. So a couple of really pivotal people are the CTE director in your district or in your high school, and then a local community college even, or your local university's early childhood program. They will help you. They have all the frameworks and all of the course guidelines and everything for how you would run a child development program. You don't have to have a child development 1 and a child development 2. You can kind of morph them all together. The third thing that I would say is that you need to find somebody that's willing to participate as the teacher for the high school students. So when I first started at Kodiak Cubs, I was not the high school teacher. I was not the high school kids instructor. I was just the preschool teacher. I shouldn't say just the preschool teacher. I was the preschool teacher. And then they had a high school instructor that ran the child development class. But for me, it wasn't working for me not to be the person that trained them, because I wanted them to have some certain tools in their tool belt, to be able to be effective as instructors in the classroom. And it worked better if I was their teacher. So I guess what I'm saying there is that if you could find somebody at the high school that wanted to be the instructor for those high school kids, and your preschool teacher is willing to have those kids be in the class, then you can make it work, even if the high school even if the preschool teacher doesn't want to teach the high school students. The next question that I get asked a lot is, well, how do you get certified to teach the high school class? Well, the cool thing about CTE certification is that as preschool teachers, we have enough experience, on-the-job training to get a conditional certification in CTE early childhood as an early childhood instructor. So my school district pays for me to get that conditional certification. It costs. We just did it. It was $40, and I had to show that I had worked as a preschool teacher for so many years, and it's not onerous at all. It's pretty easy. You just have to fill the paperwork out and make sure that gets done every year. And then I'm the high school teacher. So I teach high school and preschool at the same time. And if you have somebody that is enthusiastic and wants to give it a try, I highly recommend it. People ask me all the time, is it hard to teach high school kids? No, it's not, because they're really not that much different than my preschoolers, except they can go to the bathroom by themselves. So I don't have to do that part. But they enjoy the same things that the little kids do, and just that combination of the big kids and the little kids together is, for me, worth the extra time that it takes. when you're involved in the CTE program, there is some extra dollars that comes with that. So I get an extra stipend to pay for the extra time that it takes for me to develop lessons and things for my high school students. And then there's also some extra money available for training. So if I feel like there's a class or a course that I want to do that would help me benefit me teaching those high school kids, it's there and available.
That's really awesome. I know we've been doing some professional development with your high school students too, and that has been so exciting because we're using a graduate student to do the professional development. So we've got, supervisors, graduate student, high school student, all to affect this preschool classroom, and it's just such an awesome opportunity right now. So that's really awesome.
We call them the bigger kids.
Yeah, there you go.
The big and the bigger kids.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Does anybody have any questions about the CTE or any other questions about other options?
I'm sorry I was so late, guys, but Lindsay, I'm wondering how long it's been going on, and have you been able to hire back any of the high school students, because that is a obvious interest.
This is an excellent question, Hillary. I have been here. This is my 7th year at Kodiak Cubs, and I have numerous former high school students that are in school to become teachers, and we haven't hired anybody yet, but we have a couple of students, a couple of college age students that just finished their student teaching, and I can't say anything, but we might be having a former Kodiak Cub coming aboard soon. Yeah, so that is also, that's an excellent point, because not only are we affecting our own program by having the high school students participate, we are recruiting teachers. And that is also, that has become part of our foundational, it wasn't one of our foundational practices, but it's become part of our philosophy for how we're operating, that we want to be that saying, we want to be the change that we want to see in the world. So we want to see more students of color going on to become educators, and that's what we're seeing. That's where we're getting those kids in there, and it's really impactful to them to be in this environment where there's a lot of joy and it's fun. I mean, fun is the word used for preschool, and engaging, and they see that school can be like that. A lot of high school kids, that whole notion that we have as a society about high school kids being disaffected and kind of apathetic, that is absolutely not the case. They are not that way at all. They are energetic and enthusiastic, and they believe that they are the hands and the feet that are going to change the world. And I get in their little head. I like to say I'm a little earworm and just say, being a preschool teacher, being an elementary school teacher could be because how many kids am I changing when I'm in here? And so I've got high school kids. Actually, I have a whole crew of them that are graduating this year from law school because they've gone on to become immigration justice lawyers. So, it's that we have a real power to have them in a program where they can see that education is a real key to their future, but not just that, it's the future to making the world be the place that they want to be in. And sometimes when they feel like in high school, when they're maybe not getting that message, they can come here and they're like, yeah, the teachers all at the high school, I'm not dissing high school teachers or anything. High school teachers are amazing. But, sometimes the high school students are like, oh, it's not any fun, but it's fun over here. Maybe I could do that. Yeah. Somebody asked about community partnership. That was Rena Marie. You wanted to know about community partnerships. And I think that this kind of ties in really nicely to what Hillary asked, because we have been able to get some of our high school students partnered up with lawyers in the community. We had a student that was really interested in doing pediatric physical therapy. Got her hooked up with a physical therapist down at the hospital. Because we live in a small community, we know lots of people, and so we just that's just become kind of built into the fiber of what we do. We just want to keep doing that. We also, because we are a tuition-based program, to find funds and services and everything, and all of you might know something about this, it really requires that we have community partnerships to bring our level of service up to, I would say I want it to be a little above standard. I want it to be a little bit, a little bit luxe, maybe, I guess. So to be able to have the, new furniture and toys and a playground and all these things, because we're a tuition-based program, that's the tuition funds aren't going to generate all that extra stuff. So we have partnerships with the local Cascade Medical Center, our local hospital, the social service network in our community. It's called MEND, Meeting Each Need with Dignity. We partner with them. It's just the community, the Cascade Education Foundation and the North Central Washington Foundation and our North Central ESD. They're all community partners. But I have to say that the biggest partner that we have is our library system, the regional library system, which is the North Central Regional Library. They have gone out of their way to provide library services to us because we are in a middle school. We don't have the middle school doesn't have a preschool library. So the North Central Regional Library has, they started a bookmobile service, and they come and they do library for preschool. They provide some parent training and opportunities for families to participate in book groups and things like that. So when we aren't able to provide, because we're so small, it's just me and I can't be everywhere at once, I need to have other people helping, and they have stepped in and kind of bridged that family engagement piece for us. And I work really closely with the branch librarian in Leavenworth and the branch librarian in Preshaston. And they do a lot of outreach to our families, and they actually do a lot of work to help us register new students too. They're out there, looking for new families for us all the time. It really requires, when you're in a small community like ours, and there's, again, like I said before, there's just me. I need boots on the ground helping get all of that taken care of and serving as many families as we can in as many ways as we can.
Lindsay, can I ask a question that makes me think about when you say it's just me? What are some ways, because what if something happens to you? What if some other opportunity comes up? What are some ways that you're building capacity so, so this is sustainable beyond your time there?
I think that is an excellent question because that is something that I think about. We think about that all the time. What happens if I sprain my ankle and can't come to school for a couple of days? Yeah, so that's one of the things about recruiting high school kids into the educational field. Our school district that has been something that has been on my mind for years, that it can't be about me, that the program can't be about me. It has to be about the sustainability of the program. So making sure that we have protocols and procedures that are just, it's not about me. This is just how the program operates. So that is the first thing that I would suggest in a small place is if you want to build in sustainability, it can't be about, this is how Mrs. Camp does it. It's not. I work with families to get, we don't, so I know in other places they have like an organized, like a committee or something, and parents serve on it, and you have other staff people and everything serve on it and help, like an advisory committee. Well, we don't have that here officially, but unofficially I have my parent sounding board. I've got other staff people, and we have crafted procedures and protocols for Kodiak Cubs. So that's the first layer of, if I'm not here, that's the first layer. This is just how it's done. And we've gone about making sure that everything is filed appropriately, and we've got electronic files and all that stuff. You know, the logistics, the actual logistics stuff is like, there's a procedure for everything. And we are part of the special education department in our school district. So we don't have a secretary for our preschool, but there is the secretary for the special education department. So she has been brought on board. So she's part of our team. Our special education director is part of our team. And just making sure that there's other people, you know, I'm the person that's here on a daily basis, but there are other people, our special education teacher that consults with us and everything. So we do have a team of people, including our related services people, that are all part of that and part of the sustainability. An interesting thing to note is that last year I got ill. I was ill and missed 6 weeks of school. And I didn't have to worry about anything because we had done such a great job of creating procedures and protocols that had nothing to do with me. And this is just how the place operates, that a substitute was easily able to step in and just go with the flow, as we say at Kodiak Cubs. But that is something that I do. It has always been in the forefront of my mind that it's not just my classroom. You know, when I was a classroom teacher, it's my classroom and the South stuff goes in my classroom. It's not just my classroom. It's this program that operates for all of these people, and it has to be sustainable. So there has to be a plan in place. That's not just my idea of how things go, but how does it work best for families? The transportation director is an integral part of that team as well, because we got to make sure that keeps operating. So I think that's my answer to that question. In the future, we are actually working on establishing a formal advisory council for the program to address that very issue, so that it's not just about me, and the program will succeed going into the future. Even if Oprah calls and I need to go to Chicago.
You always go when Oprah calls. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I do think, Lindsay, I really appreciate your answer there. And I think that, part of the kind of building capacity, you hear from a lot of resources, sorry, my dog, talk about, they don't have the resources, right? Districts saying they don't have the resources. And, really thinking about the way you're using the big kids is really compelling. I do wonder, and then I know there's some other questions, but I think about how we have, I think we have Shoreline School District here, we have Renton, we have like Washington, I know other districts, but they're larger districts. And I don't think that this is singular, right, to a small district. So it'd be interesting to think about how this fits in those larger school district contexts.
I know that we were inspired to try this because there was a program like this in Wenatchee, at Wenatchee High School. Actually, it was East Wenatchee, at Eastmont High School. They are a very large school. They're a Quad A school, and so they're a lot bigger than us. And they operated a program very similar to this. Ours is smaller, more intimate and everything. But yeah, there's a lot of things I can imagine that might make it easier to kind of, smooth the way to be able to do it in a big place. But because there's people that maybe are a little bit more aware of like how CTE works and everything, and you're more maybe are in closer contact contact or context to a university or a community college. So that might, in those instances, it might make it easier. Might be able to find more people that you'd be able to access for information. Somebody is, Rita Marie is asking, in what ways are you disseminating the community info to families? This is a great question. We are partnering with a rural team, and although resources are limited, they want to get the word out, but aren't sure how to support families to navigate those resources. This is an excellent question, and one of the biggest challenges that we have. So we actually have a real digital divide in our community. So initially, the comment was, oh, well, we'll just put it on the website. Well, when we have people, we have a gigantic geographical area. We have people in our school district that can't access Wi-Fi and can't access the internet. They're just in places that there is no fiber optics, and having a satellite is not going to work. Very rural and there are people that live in wilderness areas in our community. So you can't say, put it on a Facebook page, put it on social media, although that is part of what we do. That is not how we're getting the word out to people. We found that the easiest way for us to get the word out to people was to get out into the community. And this is where my high school students are, they're invaluable in the classroom, but this is a major role that they take on. We make flyers in English and Spanish, and we just canvas the school district. We go everywhere and we put flyers everywhere. We talk to shop owners, and we go to the post office, and we go to the library. Every place that we can think of, we go and we talk to people that are there. We, a couple years back, we did a major sweep of all the fast food restaurants in town, because we knew that there were a lot of single moms that worked at fast food restaurants. And we went and we found all the single moms that had little kids and gave them information. We weren't proud. We talked to whoever we could find and asked them if they had little kids, and we handed them out. We gave out the information. We make a lot of phone calls to people. One of the best flyers that we ever put up was the one in the local laundromat. I put a little basket in the laundromat with books, and each one of the books had a little label in it that said it was from Kodiak Cubs Preschool in English and Spanish. We put a bunch of bilingual books in there, and then there was a flyer on the top that said, if you have a child that is age 3 to 5 and you are interested in preschool, we'd love to talk with you. That is huge. Word of mouth, I would say, is also really super important. Success begets success. So, we have been a successful program, and people call me all the time and say, I've heard such great things about you. But I think that the most important thing that we ever did, and that we ever do, is that we actually physically get out into the community and go and meet people where they're at. The mercado, the Mexican tienda, that was also huge. We went down there and talked with the families down there and the people that own it, and the taco truck. I hung out there one afternoon. Everybody that came up, I gave them a flyer. Just getting out there, getting the word out to people, letting them know that you're there. I did a blitz at the 2 grocery stores in our town where where they have the little kids shopping carts. So I went to the grocery stores and I asked them if I could put little signs on all the shopping carts, because I knew that the little kids would be going in there and pushing the shopping carts. So I put signs on all of them. And then we made a scavenger hunt in the grocery store. So families were going around and they had and they're finding all the stuff in the scavenger hunt. And at the end, it was, oh, this was brought to you by Kodiak Cubs Preschool. If you want to know more about how we can help serve your family, give us a call or drop on by. We got a lot of people that came in because of that. You know, they saw our name on a little shopping cart at the grocery store. Just wherever you can think to go and insert yourself in a happy, fun way. We sponsored a lot of high school drama productions because my own children were in high school and they were in the plays, and so we sponsored, and so we were in the programs and things. You could see if, like, at the basketball games and stuff, you could put a flyer, you know, whatever, just wherever you can think of that kids might be and their families might be.
Thanks. See, that is so helpful, because also what I'm hearing is that the presence, like the community, you're building their relationships also, but also, yeah, putting a face to the program and just kind of getting out there.
I think that is critical. We had a problem in our school district before Kodiak Cubs started. We had a preschool program. I mean, because you have a preschool program because you're serving your students with special needs, right? And then the rest of the spaces were tuition-based slots. And we had a real problem with our Spanish-speaking families not wanting to sign their kids up for Kodiak Cubs, because in previous years, their children did not qualify to receive special services, so they didn't get into the tuition-based preschool. And their perception of it, because of the language not translating, their perception of it was that their children were not smart enough to attend preschool because they didn't pass the test. And so we had families. It took us years of going out and talking with families and outreaching to families and saying, hey, no, there was a misunderstanding, miscommunication. And it really took getting Spanish-speaking staff people and Spanish-speaking high school kids on board to disseminate that information into our community and start telling a different story about what preschool meant in our community. And we have turned that around, and now I've got, you know, lots of families that this is the only place that they'll send their kids. And by the way, I speak Spanish un poquito. Me hablo español un poquito. I sound like a 3-year-old, which works well with the 3-year-olds, but not with the families. But because I have a depth of cultural competency and cultural appreciation and understanding, they want their kids to participate here because they know that their kids and their families will be served. And you have to get out there. I have to talk. I have to go out. I have to sound like an idiot speaking Spanish. I have to sound like a 3-year-old. And the grandmas, the abuelitas, and the mamas and the papas, they are just so happy, and they're teaching me, and I get better every year because they help.
That is so fantastic. Thank you so much, Lindsay. So you've talked a little bit about the things that you've done in the past. Can you think of any other barriers to inclusion as you've been going about this that you've been able to overcome?
Well, I think this is the issue. I think this is the thing that stands in all of our ways, is that all those barriers. I think that initially it was people just wanted their kids to be in a place that was safe and happy and healthy and engaging and fun. And so the question of inclusion didn't come up. It just didn't, because we were the place to be. We were the only option. So that wasn't on the table. But as we started getting more students, we started serving more kids of varying abilities, and more kids on the autism, on the spectrum, more kids with all kinds of learning disabilities, physical disability, just the gamut, right? And we just served them. They were just here. And our team met their needs here in the classroom, and we didn't have a pullout program. They were just here. They were just here with the rest of the kids. And what we saw over time is that the opposite happened. So the opposite of families not wanting their kids to participate, we didn't have that problem. We had the opposite problem. Our kids, we want our kids to participate in that program because we want our kids to be in a program that looks like the real world, that looks like every other place where everybody is participating. And because that is the reputation of our program, those families started advocating in kindergarten. When their kids got to kindergarten, they were like, where is my son's best friend? They were in preschool and pre-K together, and now I know he goes to school here, but they never see him. And so our families, after they left our program, started advocating as they went up every grade. Where are those kids? They were their best friends. And so that the model of inclusion, which we happened upon by chance, has become the norm in our school district. So I think, again, being visible in the community, making sure that you're bringing people on board and having them feel a part of what is happening, that they feel not that just that their children are in a comfortable, loving, engaging environment, but that they are also part of that as well. That success begets success. They're pulling other families in. I've had aunts and uncles say, my nephew, I think that he has a problem with his speech. I'm going to go talk to my brother or my sister. I have people call all the time that say, my brother said that I have to get my little kid into your program because you will help him. And so making sure that people feel part of the community of Kodiak Cubs, that they feel that it's a comfortable, safe, engaging place for their kids and for them, makes them want to bring other people. When you participate in something that you love, you want to bring other people on board and you want to tell other people about it. So that's the best advertisement is our families and our kids getting out there. I have had lots of high school kids that have gotten their little brothers and little sisters signed up for Kodiak Cubs because they saw the difference that it made for other kids.
That is fantastic. Thank you for sharing, Lindsay. Does anybody else have any questions that they wanted to answer before I continue on?
This is kind of an operational logistics question, Lindsay, but do you have like a cap on, I apologize, I was kind of late to popping in too. I'm really excited to hear this, Lindsay, and the work you're doing. I've just started the CTE track with the high school. So we're starting in the fall, and there was some resistance a little bit from some folks at central office, but we're moving in the right direction. The hiccup I'm finding is around the tuition-based students. It ends up being a union issue that we have a cap on the number of students in the special education preschool. And so I'm just wondering kind of how you worked through that or any advice that you could offer around that.
Oh, Megan, that's an excellent point because we too have a cap on the number of students and actually initially there was no policy to be able to deal with that because the cap for a preschool teacher in our school district was 18 students. And so I was like, okay, well, how am I going to have a morning session and an afternoon session? And I've got preschool and pre-K and I've got high school kids. So what we ended up doing is we worked through the language and everything and came to the understanding together that 18 students means 18 students a session. So I serve 18 students a session in the morning. Basically, it's like 8 per period. Like in a high school class, they have a cap per class period, right? So mine is a cap per session. So if I, and always, there's kind of a hierarchy of needs. So our students with IEPs and and any kind of special service or related service that they are needing, their first priority. They always get a space. Next priority is preschool and pre-K students. They're the ones that we really need to be here. And then always last are the high school students, and they fill up the spaces. But also what we came to understand too is that 15 pre-K kids was about the max. And then you go 15 pre-K kids and three high school kids. And then our preschool class, we always have less kids enrolled in our preschool program. So there's more space there. There's more flexibility for our high school kids. Also in the high school class, to really be able to function well and to be able to have the time to intentionally instruct them and everything, I've found that 5 is the max that I want to have at any one time. And really the optimal number of high school kids in here is 3 or 4. And any more than that, it's just too many, and there's too many big people in the space. And so I think having that conversation with your, like you said, your central office and your administration is really, really important, because it protects you too. I mean, for us, it came to a head when I had one semester where they signed up so many high school kids, and I had like 8 high school kids in here. I had more high school kids than I did preschool kids. And that didn't work for anybody. It's not effective. But having a couple of, it's crazy puzzle work. That's totally right. But just thinking about that and having, working through that language, because if it's the first time you've done it, no one has even thought of that. No, I mean, you got to work through that. You want to make sure that you are getting what you need as the classroom teacher, that you're making sure that you're meeting your contractual obligations. Prep time is huge. So like we had to make sure that we scheduled our day so that I still get prep time. Because otherwise I wouldn't get my contractual prep time. I am on the high school schedule. It says that I teach 4 periods a day, and I am the only high school instructor that teaches 4 periods a day. But so I couldn't, it still says that, and I continuously have to go back to them and say, no, you have to make sure that there's 1 period a day that I don't have any students, just like the rest of the high school teachers. So you have to, when you're doing something new and different, you have to advocate for yourself, Megan. And so I think making sure that you're following the intent of the contract is the most important thing. The intent of the contract is not to overload you, right? And you want to make sure that you are serving the most number of preschoolers. That's why you're there. And really, at the beginning, we didn't have that many high school students that wanted to participate. So it ended up in the beginning not being a problem. And then it got successful. And then we had too many high school students. But wanting to have the cream of the crop means they have to be vetted by me. I make sure they have to take Child Development 1 first. That's a must. That's the prerequisite. And then they have to come and meet me, and I just talk with them and feel them out and see, if I feel like they would be a good fit, and remind them that it is a college level course. So throw something in, like you're going to have to do some sort of paper or something. And that just right away weeds a whole bunch of them out. I'm not writing a paper, so they try. Yeah, but that's an important, really important piece of the puzzle, and something that you need to work with your administration to make sure that you're protecting yourself and meeting the needs of the kids.
Lindsay, what's your title? Like, are you a high school teacher? Like what's your?
Well, we discuss this every single year. I think every single year I've been here, I've had a different title. So I think we came up with my title is I'm the lead teacher at Kodiak Cubs Preschool. But I am also a high school instructor because I teach child development too. So it's kind of weird because I'm in the middle school. So I'm on the middle school staff list. I'm the lead teacher for the preschool. So I'm on the special ed department staff list. I'm a high school I teach a high school class. So I'm on the high school staff, and I'm also attached to our elementary school, our primary school, because in Skyward, that's the only way that it would work to be able to keep records and everything was for us to be attached to a primary school. So I'm actually, with the exception of one school in the district, I'm attached to every building in the district. Oh, and I'm also on the transportation list because I'm listed as the contact person for the bus. So yeah, so it's weird. I wear a lot of hats.
You get additional stipends or anything, I hope?
Yes, well, because I'm a CTE teacher, I do get an extra stipend. Yeah, for that, I do. Do I get as much as I should?
No.
None of us do. Cassie wants to know if I have any examples, tables, or other visuals of how you make all of these puzzles work. This is an excellent question. In the first webinar that we did, there was a there was a schedule of how we fit it all together. And so if you go back and look at that, I bet and I probably have one here somewhere. If anybody wants it, I can send it to you.
And just to shout it out too, at the end of this, later this week, we will send a follow-up email with everything that was kind of discussed in here, access to the recording, and any artifacts that were talked about too. So I'll make sure to link that in, Lindsay. Thank you. And Tracy, thank you for joining us. It's good to see you.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I was in a training, so I had to come so late, but just wanted to show some support to Lindsay. Great to see y'all. I'm Tracy Beckendorf-Adu, the superintendent of Cascade School District.
Thank you so much for being here.
So I looked on the website and I noticed that you guys have a CTE track. And then I also saw, Lindsay, that you have, so it's really helpful to hear that. It sounds like the high school students go through Child Development 1 before they enter the classroom. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And then it looks like you also offer an actual college credit class too. So this could be speaking from someone who does not live in the secondary world. I'm foreign to it, but can you talk a little bit about the difference of the CTE track versus the educational track and the college credits? From my understanding, it has to do with the difference would be the amount of time that the high schoolers are actually spending. So I'm wondering if you could just touch on that.
Yeah, so actually we offer dual credit. So our courses are actually dual credit courses. So they're getting high school credit and college credit at the same time. Linking back to our deep dive webinar that we did, some of the artifacts there are the frameworks that we are given by Wenatchee Valley College through their early childhood program. So you were asking about my titles and all that stuff. So I'm actually also a college instructor because I do the child development course for the dual credit. I'm also listed on Wenatchee Valley Colleges. Yeah, lots of stuff going on. But to be a dual,
serve both.
I serve both.
Okay, yeah. That's kind of what. Yeah.
To get the college credit, you have to meet the minimum baseline level, which is to get a B in the class. And then there are the frameworks that are offered. And if you look at our artifacts from our first webinar, you'll be able to see that those are listed there. And those are the frameworks that for CTE for child development across the state. So it's going to be the same anywhere. That's the what the students need to learn in the class when they're here. Now, my class that I teach for dual credit for high school and college credit is called Nurturing Relationships. So when they're here, their job is to interact with the little kids and to create relationships. And then there's a certain set of criteria that they're supposed to be working on. To meet those criteria, I do have them do some written work. They read some articles and they do some written work. Currently, all of that work is being done on Canvas, which we didn't, the learning management system Canvas, we didn't use that before. That's a new thing because of the pandemic, but it's something that I'm going to keep. I will keep using. It's really a great way to interact with the high school kids and to push out that piece of the puzzle. Because when they're here in class with the little kids, there's not time to do that. So we actually kind of steal time away. We used to steal time away from the time that they spent with the little kids to be able to do that. But now, because it's on Canvas, we can have that be asynchronous work that they're doing. So that's really awesome. But Megan, look at the frameworks for the CT, because it's really super helpful. It outlines it. It's in like chronological order and the exact things that you need to teach. It's not. It's another piece of the puzzle, so you have to be prepared to take that on board if you're going to have those high school kids in your class. But it's not undoable. In fact, I would say that it helped me to be more intentional about what I was doing in my classroom, and it helped to improve my own practice to just be like, oh yeah, we got to do that. So we're learning and together and growing together. And this year, especially having Cassie and Mo and the graduate students from the Herring Center, they've been providing some professional development work for our high school kids. So that's been really awesome. So there's ways to make it work, and looking at those frameworks is really super helpful because it helps give you an outline of how you can manage those high school students in your program.
Thank you so much.
Let me know if, call, email me, whatever. I'm happy to help.
And then I figured since Tracy joined in, maybe Lindsay, you want to talk a little bit more about inclusion and how it's been working out with your district, the community, and any other facets you want to include there?
Yeah. I just think we have been so grateful to be able to have Tracy come on board and be a real advocate for early learning in our community and really supportive of our program. So one of the really cool things that we're going to get to be doing going into the future is that we are starting another branch of early learning in the school district called TK Cubs. So I'll stay here and continue working with the Kodiak Cubs, but we're opening up another branch of early learning in the school district because we just saw the need that we had lots more kids that needed a space to be, and we wanted to be able to offer that. So it's a transitional kindergarten program that's going to open up at our primary school down in Shaston, and it's exciting to me because it means I get a colleague that's actually going to be teaching pre-K. It's awesome. So I won't be a singleton anymore, and it's going to make we're going to be able to serve more kids that need it and more families, and that's pretty awesome. So that's the way that we're headed, and inclusion is the foundational piece for all of that work that we are doing all of the time. Yeah.
Tracy, did you want to touch on anything there?
I think Lindsay does it better than I do, and she sounds much happier about it too. And I just got braces last week, so I'm like kind of slurring and stuff. I'm like, these are my COVID braces from looking at my crooked teeth over Zoom 3 times a day. Anyway, yes, so Lindsay does a great job explaining it. We have a great need in our area, in our region, for early childhood education. I'm sure Lindsay had talked at one point about how we ended up having to decrease the enrollment just because of COVID and enrollment loss and things like that. So, I mean, we had to decrease staffing. So this is a way for us to serve the community's needs and get some support from the state through transitional kindergarten. So we're super excited about starting it out. We're actually going to be interviewing for a transitional kindergarten teacher next week. And we have a transitional kindergarten para already hired for next year. So we're just really looking forward to expanding our offerings. We have a lot of children in need in our region. And as far as inclusion goes, like Lindsay said, it's just an underpinning of what we do and how we serve kids in our school district. So now it's just trying to be able to support the needs that already exist.
That's great. Thank you. Lindsay, we've talked a lot about, community and how you guys got started and barriers and everything. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what it actually looks like in the classroom in terms of the inclusionary practices that you're using?
Sure. One of the coolest things about our program, I think, besides the fact that we have high school kids in there helping us, is that we, because we're small, again, I keep going back to that, but it's really true, because we're small, everybody is here, and to get all of their needs met, they just get their needs met here. So the chief thing that we do to serve all of our kids is that all related services just happen in the context of the classroom. Another kind of pivotal piece is that I am not a special ed teacher. I am a gen ed teacher. So I partner with a special education teacher to design the instruction that's going to happen in the classroom. And then I teach the high school kids how to do different intervention strategies and stuff. And we make that happen in the context of the classroom. If we have students that need deeper, more intensive practice or a special kind of service that we can't make happen in the classroom, we do our darndest to make sure that it happens as close to the classroom as possible. We actually have 2 rooms that join, and we have them both set up. They're like mirror images of each other. And so if a student does need to have we don't like to call it pull out. We just have them go and have their services done in the other classroom. So they're just in the same space, just next door to us. And we work really closely with the related services people and our special ed teacher to make sure constantly that our kids are getting what they need. We're very, very tied in with our families and making sure that their needs are being met, and we're really, really reactive to what we're hearing. We're really receptive and then reactive to what we're hearing from families. What's working at home, what's not working at home. I think that the main thing that I would say about how we offer all those inclusionary practices is just baked into what we do, and also just being having people work to their strengths. So my strength is the relationships with the kids and the families. So our special ed teacher's strength is providing intensive intervention, and she is really good at teaching others how to do practices and procedures in the class to meet the needs of students. And our speech and language pathologist is right in the mix. We have the speech, the SLP and the SLP assistant in our classroom every single day. So speech services are like just happening all the time in our class. And our physical therapist is in our class multiple times during the week. Just trying to make it that it's not something special. It's just part of what happens. It's just part of the process of school, and that kids get what they need when they need it and how they need it and where they need it, and they don't have to go someplace else to get it. It's just here. Some of you have heard me say before that I like to say that I want to be the Fred Meyer of preschools. So, Fred Meyer's one-stop shopping. You get everything you need in the one store. You don't need to go any other place. And that's the dream and the design of our program, is that families get what they need here. And if we don't have the ability to do it here, we find people and places that we know that we feel comfortable with, and we refer them on. One example of that is counseling. So we don't have a counselor that's attached to our program, but we would work with the elementary school counselor. And then there's also a couple of counselors in private practice that do child counseling that we work really closely with. And so I like to say that we have people that have the Kodiak Cubs seal of approval, and that we refer our families to those people, and we'll walk hand in hand with them, making sure that we are following the laws and the guidelines of confidentiality and HIPAA regulations and all that stuff. If families want us to participate with them in certain activities, things, we do that to the best of our abilities, and make sure that we're getting, again, like I said before, we're getting kids what they need, when they need it, and where they need it.
That's fantastic. And then just to kind of lead you along a little bit more, what are your next steps in the last 15 minutes? What do you guys want to do next?
Oh, God, I have dreams of taking over the world. Well, next, the biggest thing on our plate right now is just getting the TK Cubs up and running and functional. I think that we have a really great reputation in the community for our school district providing early learning services. So that's some heavy lifting that's already been done for whoever comes on board with that program. But my goal, and everybody here, our goal is to really make that program successful, because when they are successful, we're all successful. So that's the kind of the immediate thing. Next year for our program, we are going to be participating in the pyramid implementation project through OSPI. And that's really exciting, because that's something that I've been working with Josie at our ESD with. I really, 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 really wanted to get accredited by NIAC or NACI, depending on how you say it. But we decided to go this way instead. So we're going to do the pyramid implementation and go down that direction, hoping to continue working with the demo sites at the Herring Center, and just keep doing what we're doing. That's for next year. And my long-term goal is I would love to see our community support and embrace an early childhood education center, where we provide preschool and pre-K programs, but also childcare 24/7, 365 days a year for families, and before and after school care, and family training and engagement and family fun nights and all this stuff. Just a center in our community that is about early childhood and all that encompasses. I would love for us to be embracing families B to 5, birth to 5, and just giving them all of the nurturing and support and love and care, because I truly believe that investing in that human capital is the best way that we can spend our time and the best way that we can nurture that intent for the society that we want to see, is to make sure that families of young children and their families are cared for and nurtured. That's my goal, to take over the world, is just with love and kindness, and by taking care of little kids and their families. I think that that's the best investment that we as a society can make. And we're going to keep working in that direction. I have not given up on that hope that we could make that happen sometime. My initial plan was 10 years. That was 7 years ago. So we got 3 more years to make it happen. We'll keep working on it.
That is fantastic. So we have about 10 minutes left in the actual meeting. So if anybody else has any questions or anything they're dying to know, feel free to shout it out now.
Tracy, I'm curious about, as a superintendent and your lens of early learning, do you have any tips for school districts that are still working on building that vision and mission around early learning, and like or transitional kindergarten, and how you see that meeting the need in the community that you serve?
Well, our region has a lot of childcare challenges. I think COVID has brought to light a lot of things that people knew, but it's really brought, like any, the digital divide is right in front of our face. The childcare divide is right in front of our face. I mean, all of those things that we knew about have become glaringly clear. So that's a piece of it. I think one of the things is, how are you going to benefit from your crisis, right? And so when you have this crisis and these things become glaringly clear, then in a way, it's time to put on your problem solving hat and try to figure out, okay, it's no longer kind of a remote or a hypothetical. It's a real thing affecting real families right next door. So then what do you do? The digital divide, for example, we had to solve it. What are you going to do when kids are remote? And what do you do with families who do not have internet? It has to be solved. Otherwise, the kids aren't going to get an education. So it's no longer a, can I? It's I have to. So how? And I think childcare is a piece of that. So it's been glaringly clear that some people only work if their children, if they have access to quality access to childcare at all. That's how they're able to work. And of course, we're educators. So what do we want? We want them to have high quality, excellent, not just childcare, not just babysitting, but early learning, so that they are kindergarten ready and ready to succeed in their whole life. So when things become glaringly clear, then, like I said, you put your problem solving hat on and try to figure it out. So in our communities, we don't have a lot of childcare providers, and some of the ones that we did have are no longer in the area. So that creates this huge need, which has become glaringly obvious. And yet we have all of these financial challenges. So then how are you going to solve it? So Lindsay and Cindy, who works with her, they do such a great job with the Kodiak Hub. So like she said, they've created this great foundation, a great reputation. All of this is true. And yet with our enrollment declines, we've really struggled. Last year, we had to do some, tightening the belt and, staffing reductions and things like that. And so then you try to figure out, how do you get funding in order to do these things? And so then I learned about transitional kindergarten, where the state provides funding, and it just seemed like, wow, that's just a gift. So it becomes very like, here's the problem, here's a possible solution. So how do we make it happen? And that doesn't mean transitional kindergarten is easy to put in place. Like, we're already learning that. But I guess that's a little bit of the way I think about it. And then I do a lot of like strategic planning and really thinking about systems and how do you create this system that starts in, at age of 3 and goes throughout our program. And this is just my second year in the district, so I haven't necessarily been able to, accomplish everything that I want. But obviously, success along the trajectory, where does that begin? It begins with early learning. So it's pretty easy and obvious for that.
Did you find yourself, Tracy, needing to educate your school board at all, kind of around that trajectory, or maybe the disconnect of early learning to the K-12 system?
Luckily, I have a school board member who worked in early learning for a lot of her career, so I'm very luckily have her as an advocate. I have another school board member, the school board chair actually, whose child is one of Lindsay's students. So I don't have a problem with the board, whether or not they support it. They do. So I don't have that issue. I do think that there is, in general, it's a language thing. It's really important to say pre-K-12 instead of K-12. It's really important to intentionally say pre-K-12, because when we say K-12, we're leaving out a really important piece of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. And so I tend to always say pre-K-12, pre-K-12. At least I think I do, don't I, Lindsay?
Well, yes, but that is a really super good point, because that is a battle that I fought early on. And I think, Megan, your point is very well taken about how do you get those stakeholders that are really important in policy making to be on your side. Well, 7 years ago when I came on board here, we already had a school board that made the commitment to funding the preschool. So we had already kind of cleared that hurdle. But it took years to get people to use that language, to talk about early childhood, to say P12. And now by the way, I'm trying to get everybody on board with saying, we want to be, as a community, taking care of our kids B+, birth plus for the rest of the time, right? And as a system, we take care of our students B21, right? Because we've got transition services at high school level. But I think also really, like we talked about, recruiting teachers. I think having a successful preschool program and having somebody, not to pat myself on the back, but I'm not shy about being out there and talking to the newspaper, to the radio, to the community members. And we really worked to help recruit people to run for school board positions that were going to be advocating for early learning. One of our, like Tracy said, one of our school board members, who is a former preschool teacher herself and a parent of a current student and former students, they knew that having people in those critical positions that were policymakers is really important, and finding like-minded administrators in your district. So they might not be people that are in your building, but people that make connections with, other teachers who have young children themselves. They're going to be some of your most vocal proponents. You got to find, part of the work that we're doing is reinvigorating. We're not reinventing it, because it's been there for a long time. We're reinvigorating the idea that early learning is the foundation and the basis for everything that happens in not just our school system, but our society. So find somebody that is a reporter that you can start a relationship with and start sending. I wrote press releases and I was sending them myself, because there was nobody to do that. And then our school district, our central office and our school board started getting on board with that and doing some of that work for us. And we actually cultivated a relationship with a reporter who, by the way, was a parent of one of my former students. You know, those are the people that are going to be your proponents out in the community and really cultivate those relationships. And I'm not trying to say that you should take advantage, but that's what their job is. Their job, they want to put good, positive stories out there. Every time you do something in your program that is worthy of attention, toot your own horn, tell people about it, write the story if you have to, and send the pictures if you have to the newspaper and get it out there. Because the more that you can do that, the more that people will have that on their mind. And right now it's really super critical because our state government is talking about early learning. Our federal government is talking about early learning. And the more that we can be out there talking about how this is not some pie in the sky thing that's coming from Washington, D.C. This is affecting the little kids and the families in your own community. The more that we can be talking about that, as I like to say, boots on the ground, it's more meaningful to the people in your community because they know people that it's going to affect.
Yeah, and just to add to that, when you have administrators or people in leadership who don't have an early learning background, I still really believe in inviting them in. So I am somebody with a secondary background and a secondary core content background, but I started getting really interested in early learning in my previous district because we did a lot of these kinds of partnerships between secondary and preschool. And so I saw it from the secondary side first, but the more I got invited in and the more I saw what was happening, the more I became an ally. And I definitely think a lot of people with a secondary background can really start becoming allies to early learning, even if that's not what they taught or not their area of expertise, because once you start seeing what the young kids can do, the questions they can ask, the problems they can solve, their curiosity about the world, that's why we all become educators, because we love that at any age. So I really recommend bringing people in, inviting them, showing them how early learning is the foundation for what is yet to come, and then creating those partnerships between secondary and early learning, because I think it opens doors not only for the students, but also for the people who work with the different grade levels. So I would recommend that.
One of the greatest things that we ever did was have the school board come in and do a visit of the preschool, and it just happened to be the day that the Child Development 1 students, so they weren't the kids that work in my program on a day-to-day basis, but Child Development 1, they came in and they were doing some games with the little kids, and the school board members got to see that in action, and they were like, wow, I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it. And one of our staunchest supporters of our program is one of our elementary school principals who has no connection to our program at all, but he has seen the other side of the coin. Our students that have become his students, our families that have become his families, and the difference that makes. And he just talks about us every place. And the principal here at the middle school, who doesn't really have anything to do with our program except for that we're in his building, I will never forget when he spent an afternoon with us, and he said after the fact, he said, "You're teaching the same as the rest of us." And I was like, yeah, yes, we are. And just those relationships, the people that teach across the hall from me that are 6th grade teachers, they see what a difference it makes. Tracy's absolutely right. Invite those people in. And there's people that are in your high school, there's people that are in your middle school that will be wonderful partners for you and will be the best public relations that you could have. You can do it, Megan.
And Cassie's question about how is the work you've done in early learning impacting inclusion in K-12?
Yeah, so are your classrooms inclusive too, going all the way through the trajectory? So what, or have,
Yeah, we have an inclusive kind of framework throughout our district. And I think it does start with the kids in classrooms and people feeling comfortable with people who learn differently. And it just kind of grows through the grade levels. So the children accept each other and support each other very well.
so are there not self-contained programs in the elementary, middle, and high schools?
In elementary, middle, and high school, we do have some life skills that are self-contained that will go into the general ed classrooms, you know, as much as possible. But our resource, we try to use the inclusion model as much as we can.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody. I think we ran over time just a tiny bit. That is totally fine. So I'm just going to share my screen really quickly to give you guys access to these resources one more time. And they were in the chat, and I will also send a follow-up email. And I just want to say one more time, thank you to our partners at OSTI, CSTEP, and the Kodiak Cubs. Without you guys, we would not be able to share this awesome information. Feel free to reach out to myself or Lindsay or whomever. I will send a follow-up email and you'll have everybody's access there, as well as access to this recording and everything too. So thank you everybody for being here, being present. It's been so nice.
Have a great afternoon.